No. Okay, we're live. Let's fucking go. Okay. I'm not pressing one. I'm not pressing one for anything in the world. Okay, I'm just promoting a little bit, and we'll get to the podcast. I still record, so let me get my software going and all of that. Hello everyone, I'm Feña from the Fight Side. This is the Early Prelim podcast. This time I'm going impromptu live to chat with some boys. We'll be talking about UFC 307. I can't speak. We have a pretty mid pay-per-view, but everyone's happy about it because Alex Pereira once again put on a show. So there's always that, right? We'll talk about all the fights. We had some good action. We'll talk about the judging, the refereeing. There was some shit show going around that card. Why don't we start talking about that? So this was in Salt Lake City. This is at Elevation, and of course they booked Jose Aldo again in there because they love putting very old Jose Aldo at Elevation. Insane, but we'll get into that. The main event was Alex Pereira Poatan against Khalil Roundtree Jr. So this was expected to be a striker against striker affair, and that's what the UFC got. Obviously, the UFC is trying to milk the Alex Pereira cow right now, so they're not risking him against Ankalaev yet. There are talks about Ankalaev versus Alex Pereira right now, and I hope they do that, to be honest. It's like the right fight, but let's get into the fight. So Roundtree comes, we were wondering like what is going to be the Roundtree approach here, right? And the thing was that Roundtree was playing a bit of he was like the small southpaw in this matchup, obviously, and he was trying to play like a very patient, blitzing game. He was trying to aggressively close the distance every time that he saw an opening, and he was trying to put a long right hook on Pereira. We've seen in the past, and I'm guessing that his team also saw that Pereira has been vulnerable from his left side, so he's open to that southpaw right hook, especially. Roundtree, not a lot of like shifting. He was trying to stay under his feet to try to absorb the strikes from Pereira. And Roundtree was doing pretty good in the early going, to be honest. The thing, he was staying under his feet. He was trying to put combinations together. He was struggling with the height for sure. This looked like it would have been more competitive if it was if Khalil was a little bit taller, had a little bit more reach, right? Because he was just falling short. Like, there was the sequence, it was clipped by Valdewar, shout out to him. But Khalil had like a good kick catch early on, and he tried to like kick under, right? And he did not get to the leg of Poatan, which was like a funny visual. But yeah, I mean, Pereira is just fucking huge. Like, none of us can understand how the guy made 185 on the first place, right? Because now he's like one of the biggest 205ers. I mean, obviously he has like a very big frame, but he was able to be like pretty skinny at 185, and now he put on like a very good amount of size in his 205 run. He put it quick, man. He has been looking huge since his very first fight. So yeah, the thing that like kind of changed the course of the fight, Pereira was doing some good work with his calf kicks. I was talking on Twitter yesterday how Roundtree and Roundtree's stance was like a topic of conversation, right? Because he has shown up with so many stands. Shout out again to that excellent meme of Miguel Class about choose your fighter with Roundtree with very different stances, with like the Muay Thai, like very crouched. Here he showed up with like a squared, very balanced stance that I thought was like the right call. My only problem with the stance that Roundtree shows for this fight was that he was fighting with his lead feet turned inside. That gave a very easy path for Alex Pereira's calf kicks. That he was landing with a very like short, like a hop switch to the outside calf. And obviously, like, turning your foot inside has a lot of benefits, obviously, especially when it comes to boxing. But in MMA, like, you gotta evaluate the pros and the cons when it comes to turning your foot inside. And obviously, there are some good pros, and I don't think Khalil was really using them. For once, turning your foot inside in your stance allows you to blade your stance more, to hide behind your lead shoulder, to extend your jab. And Khalil was not really trying to like throw like very long jabs. He was trying to like throw power punches from both stances and cover distance. So I understand why he was very heavy on the front foot, right? But being very heavy on the front foot doesn't necessitate that turn inside foot. Is most like a comfort thing for him, right? So the main ways of defense for Khalil actually were in the way of parries. He was parrying and he was leaping to both sides when Poatan was trying to jab. So that was interesting because like none of those need him to have his foot turn inside. Actually, like sometimes some guys like benefit from parrying from a more square stance. If you go back to guys like and I know these are heavyweights, but and not like incredibly defensively sound fighters, but like if you go to like Ben Rothwell or DC with like that kind of like mommy guard, like late career, like George Foreman kind of stuff, you can actually get like very good at parrying from both sides. So yeah, I think that was a clear hole in Khalil's approach to this fight. It's that I don't feel like he was taking advantage of turning his foot inside. He was getting hit with some very nasty calf kicks. We have in the chat, we have my boy Mello. He says, it's crazy that Poatan generates so much damage with that lead leg kick. Plenty of guys can cripple legs with the calf kicks, but never seen someone else do it with the lead leg. Yeah, it's insane. He does like a very short hop. It's not quite like a pendulum switch. It's just like he does like a very small switch, and he doesn't put a lot of it. I feel like it's something about like the density of the bone structure of Pereira, and also I gotta say he has like very good accuracy with the outside leg kick, because he just lands on the same spot time and time again, and the attrition piled up very very quickly. But what actually really turned around the fight was the fact that Pereira finally decided to find his jab. He has a pretty good jab, like not a very nuanced jab, but he has like this like kind of like battering ram style jab that is very useful. He was not using it much in this fight in the early going. But then, yeah, when he finally found it, Khalil started like getting stranded on the outside. He played a little bit of the change up with the leg kick, and Roundtree was having trouble with that. And then we saw a brutal finishing sequence when Pereira started getting to him. Pereira like gets kind of like very sloppy on his defense when he goes for finishing sequences, but he has like such a presence, like he hits so fucking hard that he can do that. Khalil Roundtree was doing a good job of covering up using a high double forearm guard. Pereira was sneaking shots in the hard side of his head, and he was still hurting him because he's Pereira, right? But at the end, he remembered that he has like good hooks to the body, and that was the end of it. It was a pretty good fight. I thought Roundtree showed some very good looks. He was blitzing responsibly, I felt. The catching of the kicks was very good. He was trying to counter of the catches. So all of that was pretty good. So it was a very good showing. Should Khalil should have he tried to wrestle? I don't know, man. He's been training in MMA for a longer period than Pereira. He's a very strong guy, but I can understand like staying true to your actual style. We talk about that when we get to the Aldo fight, right? Give me a little second here. So yeah, I'm back. Sorry. It was that he stayed true to what he does well, and I feel like as a fighter, it's always weird to bank on like a very specific new game plan for your championship fight. I thought Khalil gave himself his best chance of winning, despite all things considered. So what's next for Pereira? Hopefully, and Kalayev. Hopefully. We have Ronan in the chat. By light heavyweight standards, it was a very good fight. Yeah, it was fun. It was entertaining. It was exciting, and it was like decently high level striking. So I was happy with it. I was having fun watching it. Good for Khalil Roundtree to give a good account out of himself. Good for Alex Pereira. He still shows that even if he's like being kind of pampered with the matchmaking, avoiding the wrestlers, right? But when it comes to fighting strikers, he's a very good fighter in MMA right now. Not so good fight we had on the co-main event. We had Juliana Pena against Raquel Pennington. Raquel Pennington was defending her bantamweight title after winning it from Mayra Bueno Silva, right? And this one was it wasn't very good. I feel like Pennington was pretty good at one moment. This version that showed up for the Bueno Silva fight and for this fight, I think like Pennington is clearly past her best days. Juliana Pena, I never thought she was actually very good. And this is a controversial decision, right? We'll get into that. So a quick recap of the fight. They have like a slow round one with both girls trying to jab on the outside. I felt like Pennington had some cleaner connections with some big stuff. Juliana Pena did land a big right hand on the hard part of the head of Pennington over the top. A bit of a cross counter. So yeah, round 1 was kind of close, but I thought it was like clearly Pennington's. Round 2 comes, Pennington is getting a bit more aggressive, they get into the clinch, and Juliana Pena just times a knee for a very easy like knee tap from the clinch. Gets to top position, dominates there. Third round, again they get into a clinch exchange, and this one is like the first one I can understand, like she got a knee caught. The second one was like kind of embarrassing for Pennington, and I say that as a Pennington fan, right? She conceded a very easy takedown from inside the clinch. So yeah, that's like Juliana Pena is now 2 rounds up. Then comes the 4th round. Pennington surprises with a lead head kick and punishes the like very crouch stance of Juliana Pena, right? Hurts her a little bit. Pennington gets more aggressive, and then with like 2 minutes left on the round, she drops her hard with a right hand. Very hard knockdown, actually. And then the 5th round, it was Pennington dominating again. So in my opinion, this was like super clear. Rounds 1, 4, and 5 for Pennington, with a pretty decent chance of giving the 4th a 10-8 for Pennington. And 2 judges saw the first round for Pena, and Pena is our new champion again. Kind of sucks. I mean, I feel like Pennington did not show up in like in a great shape. Not saying that she showed up in like literally in good shape when it comes to pushing a pace, but I don't feel like she was like super sharp. And she was still like the better striker, and she was still the fighter doing more damage during the fight. And she lost because the judging tonight was so bad. Judging was so bad in this night. This one is not the worst decision that I ever seen. Like, first round was kind of close. I still thought it was very clear for Pennington, but it was like a close round. So I guess it was on Pennington to get back into the fight. And then Pennington committed the mistake of giving up those 2 takedowns in rounds 2 and 3. But then again, I think you should have scored that 4th 10-8, to be honest. Like, she got hurt twice. Pennington was on the front foot, landing the better strikes the whole round. So you have damage, you have duration. We have Adin Rosmin in the chat. What do you mean, Fenyo? You didn't like the great striking of Juliana Pena? Her fan fundamentals are brought to you by the great Sikjitsu. I think Juliana Pena is actually not with Sikjitsu anymore. I think she's with is it Alex Valle, the coach of Bilal Mohammed? I think Bilal was in her corner actually, but yeah. A camp that I'm not a big fan. That they produce like good fighters, but I'm not sure I'm a big fan of them. Bilal seems like a cool guy though. But yeah, I mean, bad decision. Not the worst, but bad decision, man. Especially in a championship bout, I feel like the standard of judging should be higher than this. Don't think Pennington put on a great performance, but I for sure think she was deserving of the win here. So what's next? Juliana Pena is like refusing to acknowledge Kayla Harrison, whom we saw earlier on the night, and we get into that. And she's calling for Amanda Nunes again, saying that the trilogy would be like the biggest fight in women's MMA history or some shit. I don't care, man. Like, it's whatever, man. And Pena, well, with the way that she looked tonight, I mean last night, Saturday, I feel like she has like no chance at beating Amanda Nunes, right? Like, no way she beats her. So why is she calling? Is it just for the money? Are you actually getting more money for fighting Amanda Nunes? But yeah, and we have like 2 deserving contenders in the division. 135 is not good for the female 135, obviously. But like, we have 2 contenders right now. We have Kayla Harrison and we have Norma Dumont. And I hope they don't make them fight each other, because they both deserve a title fight. So I'm hoping Juliana Pena just defends her title against one of them next time. Before that, we have Mario Bautista against Jose Aldo, and this one was another controversial one. So, but Bautista looked pretty good on round one. I gotta say, this is like the best school that Bautista's boxing has looked in the UFC so far. He looked less wide in his movements here. He looked more responsible with his guard, and he was using better use of like throwaway shots and feints to keep Aldo on his feet here. Damage on round one was super close, but I guess Bautista was like pushing the pace, pushing Aldo against the fence, landing a few strikes, and he landed some solid strikes. So I was like going like, yeah, Bautista round two for sure. Round one. Then round two comes, and very clear Jose Aldo round, right? Aldo was just like catching him with the long 1-2s, catching him with the left hook on the high guard, but still like rocking Bautista, moving Bautista around, and Bautista couldn't get Aldo to the fence on round two. So it all comes down to round three, right? So round three comes, they're striking on the outside. Aldo's getting the better of it, not by a long shot, but he's like landing the better strikes there. And then Bautista pushes Aldo to the fence. Aldo defends takedowns like super well, but he doesn't get his back off the fence. Kind of waiting for the referee to save him there, but it is not happening. They get one separation, and Bautista immediately shoots and gets to another clinch against the fence. And I understand like Aldo is like very concerned with his cardio now that he's fighting at 135. He's old, and so yeah, he was like very insistent about fighting grips against the fence. But he was not taking risks, especially with his feet. One thing that is very curious about late career Jose Aldo is that he will not underhook at all. He will mostly, and he is not very aggressive with his whizzer either. He's mostly like just like wrist control and grabbing more of an overhook than actually like just jacking a whizzer, right? And he's just like waiting, and he did not take risk. Trying to pivot, trying to go into a 50-50, going over unders and try to reverse Bautista. He didn't want any of that in that round. And then they get separated again late into the third round. They strike a little bit, and Jose Aldo wins again the striking. So he won early. They got stuck against the fence in the middle, and then Jose Aldo won again the striking at the end of the round. Bautista on that third round not throwing any strikes against the fence, unlike on first round when I thought he did a pretty good job of filling the space with little punches and knees. That wasn't what happened on the third round. So yeah, everyone saw that third round for Jose Aldo. And not necessarily like out of fandom, right? It was like the damage was on his side. Even if it was a close round, it was Jose Aldo. They went to split decision. Bautista get the decision. The crowd was not happy, man. The crowd was not happy, and the reception on Twitter was crazy too. Like no one was happy with this. No one was happy with this result, man. But yeah, Aldo now. A new low for Jose Aldo. Not that Bautista is bad, but he's like probably like the worst fighter that has beat Aldo till now. He's very good. That only speaks very highly of Jose Aldo, and I don't think he beat him. So yeah, Bautista is very clearly like a transition fighter. This was not like super out of character out of him, but he clearly wanted to exploit the cardio, the limitations of Aldo of getting off the fence. But I felt like he could have taken more risk landing damage because he was banking on getting a sketchy decision, and I never like to see that, like, right? I never like to see a game plan where the game plan is getting a dodgy decision, right? I don't. That's not a good bet, man. you need to try to win the fight with damage. You need to try to win the fight, landing the good strikes, doing the most damaging actions. You cannot count on the judges being bad. If your game plan is, I hope the judges buy my bullshit, that's not a very good game plan in my opinion. So yeah, let's catch up with the chat a little bit. I think Nunes is never coming back. The nerves in her legs are so shot. Oh, I didn't know about any injuries in the nerves of the leg of Amanda Nunes. That's terrible. But yeah, I mean, I hope she doesn't come back. Like, she had like a great career. She can have her retirement, especially if she has the money. Aldo is on a super weight cut, and in Utah they didn't want him to win. Yeah, it feels like the UFC is like just using Aldo to build up new talent at this stage, right? It's weird to, especially after the fight against Merab, that was not an exciting fight, and then they book him in Utah again, and against a fighter with very good cardio. It's like the UFC was hoping Bautista to win here. Adin Rosmin says, well, I think Bautista's strategy is kind of lame. I feel for the guy because everyone kind of shit on him, including Dana, so probably gonna get fed to someone tough. I mean, yeah, but it was like a spotlight performance for Bautista. He needed to make the most out of that, of the attention that he was going to get here, and he just went for a win. And I feel like Bautista could have won this fight if he actually fought. If he was like pushing more of a pace instead of like just holding Aldo against the fence, I feel like Aldo could have gone more tired and he could have eventually got takedowns. But he wasn't really making Aldo work that hard against the fence. It's just that Aldo is very nervous about defending takedowns. Jason Smith says Alex Podan was farther than at UFC 307. I mean, yeah, Alex Pereira is very sharp, very fast, man. They might give him Montel Jackson. Yeah, maybe. That's like a punishing fight, right? Because no one wants to fight Montel Jackson because he has no name and he's a very tough fight. Jason Smith asks, where are you from? I'm from Chile. Aldo versus that one Sopa that Freeram likes who fought Chito. Ewell. Andre Ewell got caught like 2 or 3 years ago. But I guess they can sign him again if he's on a win streak or something. Before that, we have Roman Dolidze against Kevin Holland. I was expecting Holland to win here. I feel like he's a bit of a better striker. So this fight is going on. Dolidze catches a kick, I think, gets on top position. Holland weirdly goes for body triangle from bottom position instead of like trying to get up. And eventually Dolidze, Holland goes for did Holland go for like an armbar or a triangle? I don't remember. I didn't watch this fight with a lot of attention. And he injured his rib going for that. Dolidze gets the pass, eventually gets to mount, lands some good ground pound. The round ends, and then the fight gets stopped in between rounds because Holland could not go on with a bad rib. And that was it. Don't think much out of that fight. Holland way too serious as a fighter. Hard to be invested in a guy who doesn't care at all about winning. It's weird, man. I felt like Holland at one moment at 170 was like actually putting on a serious run, and then like he realized that he wasn't as good as he thought, especially when he fought guys like Jack Della, and especially the clowning that he received at the hands of MVP and Wonderboy. And then Holland like gave up. So I guess that's why he's back at 185. He just wants to like fight a lot and get paid. He's not very concerned with like improving or being like the best fighter in the world. Which is kind of disappointing because I feel like Kevin Holland is very talented, but he's not putting it together, man. He's still pretty decent as it is, but he's not having the rate of improvement you would expect from a fighter of his talents. Holland is interesting against not all guys. Yeah, I thought Holland had the tools to frustrate Dolidze, and Dolidze has never been a very good wrestler. But the one thing here is that Dolidze was way bigger than Holland. Like, obviously Holland was a bit taller, but you can tell Dolidze way heavier. So Holland is just like keeping his size from 170, just like not dieting as hard and showing up again as a small 185er, which can work against some fighters, but it means that he will keep losing fighters against good wrestlers, right? Kyla Harrison fought Ketlen Vieira. I said that if Vieira showed up to this fight, she had a pretty good chance of winning. I don't feel like she completely showed up, but at least she made Kyla work here. Kyla was able to get a few takedowns, but when it came to like straight up clinching, Vieira was able to use her own judo to like kind of neutralize Kyla Harrison. So that was interesting, and that was something that I was expecting actually. But the early takedown, it's clear that the early takedown made Vieira pretty timid about her own striking. It was I thought it was clear that Vieira was the better striker. She was landing pretty decent like right hands to the body throughout the fight, and then was trying to capitalize with the left hook when Harrison was trying to close the distance. Harrison was taking advantage that Vieira was like kind of afraid of the takedown to let go with her left kick. That was a good look from Kyla Harrison, and you can tell that Kyla Harrison has been working on her defense, even though she's not very comfortable in there, and I don't think she will get there just because she's like already 19 fights into her career and has been fighting for a while. She had a previous career in judo, but you can tell there are efforts there. There are like good coaching going on there. Shout out to Mike Brown. So yeah. Second round was interesting because Vieira landed like huge elbow on the forehead of Harrison and landed another one earlier, so you could easily score that second round for Vieira, but then Harrison showed up some grit, got the takedown on that third round. Good for Kyla. Hope she gets a title shot. I mean, it's probably the UFC wants Kyla to fight for the title. I feel personally that Norma Dumont deserves the title shot more. This is kind of controversial, but it's still like, if they make Kyla versus Peña, it's okay. Like, the division needs to move on and keep pushing to get better as time moves on. Joaquin Buckley fought Stephen Thompson. Buckley tried to wrestle a lot. He was muscling a lot of takedowns, but Buckley, the thing about Buckley, and I'm not a big fan of Joaquin Buckley, but he has great cardio for such an explosive guy, man. He can keep pushing because he was not getting super tired with all those like super powerful takedowns. He was getting nowhere with the takedowns because Stephen Thompson was very good at using a wizard and wall walking against the fence. Buckley was not landing a lot of shots inside the clinch too. I thought Thompson was winning, like not very widely, but he was winning. He was 2 rounds up. But then at the end, at the middle of the third round, Buckley just enters with a shifting combination, lands like a super wide right hook, and puts Thompson out. So yeah, I mean, getting old sucks. We all know that. But yeah, I don't think that... I feel like this winning streak by Buckley at 170 is like very fraudulent. It's like, what have you done? Like, you beat Rusiboyev, who could not wrestle, Vicente Luque with brain damage, now very old Stephen Thompson. Like, Alex Morono is your most legit win. Oh man, I don't buy Buckley as a contender, to be honest. I was expecting Thompson to win here, but I knew the chance of Buckley just winning because he's a monster of an athlete with cardio was a chance, and it happened, so... But still, I don't feel like Buckley's putting together a great game, and I think he would be in very big trouble if he were to fight someone like Jack Della, like Ian Gary, like Shavkat. I feel like he has nothing for those guys. I mean, he has a puncher's chance because he's insanely powerful, but other than that, I don't think much out of Joaquin Buckley. I think Ketlen Vieira was never the same since she got KO'd by Aldana. She was better striker but never pushes the initiative. Yeah, I feel the same. I feel like Vieira has not been the same since the Aldana KO. It seems like she has had a lot of trouble recovering from that because she's actually a very skilled fighter and she's not a bad athlete either. So yeah, I mean, it sucks for Vieira, but Buckley got slept by Di Chirico. I never accept him as a good fighter. My boy got head kicked, man, by Dishiriko, yeah. Yasmin Lucindo fought Marina Rodriguez. This one is weird because one judge gave Lucindo the first round, and she got rocked on that round. It was very low activity, but I felt like Marina clearly won the round because she hurt her. It was alright. I felt like Lucindo came with some right ideas to deal with the clinch and threatening with the takedowns. That was good from her part. Marina tried to be like more aggressive and do not fight like super scared against a big puncher here. And Marina herself is a puncher. Like, she hurt Lucindo pretty good, right? Then third round she gets taken down, but when Lucindo was going for like a heel hook, I think Rodriguez landed some good ground and pound, and she was winning the striking early. So I thought Marina won here, and I picked Lucindo, so no bias here. But yeah, this one I understand going to a split, to be honest. Marina is kind of old, and that sucks because she was pretty good at one moment. And now it seems like she has regressed quite a bit. Lucindo is very exciting as a prospect, and she has a bunch of fights. Like, she already has 22 fights, despite being super young. So if they're going to push Lucindo, they better do it now. Alexander Hernandez fought Austin Hobart. This fight was fun. Hernandez moving on the outside, Hobart trying to pressure. Well, very close first round. I felt like Hernandez had a few like better connections. I think Hobart had a bit of the volume on that round. Then second round, Hernandez was like clearly winning, but then Hobart started pushing for the takedowns hard, and Hernandez was like great takedown defense, but Hobart was using the transitions to land strikes. And then the third round again was super close. When it looked like Hobart was about to take over, Hernandez came back with some heat, and it was like very hard to, I mean, not super hard to score. Like, it was like, yeah, 2 and 3, 2 for Hernandez, 3 for Hobart. The first one was like wishy-washy, and I'm fine with Hernandez winning. I thought both guys look alright here, and they were fighting like a good opponent here, right? Cesar Cecilia Almeida fought the duelist Ihor Potieria, and this one was a shit show, not because of, I mean, kinda because of Almeida. The thing is that early on round 2, Potieria gets poked in the eye, he turns around, Almeida acknowledges that there was an eye poke, he backs up, and the referee just didn't give a shit, and he was like, keep fighting. So then Potieria got poked in the eye 3 more times, got hit with a punch to the cup as well once. Yeah, barely any warnings for Almeida. No point deduction, no anything. There was no breaks for, I think, 3 of the 4 eye pokes. So Potieria didn't even get time to recover. I feel like the fight showed that Almeida was having like an advantage, and without fouls, it's like very probable that Almeida still wins. But it was like very unfair from the referee for Potieria. Potieria showed up some good looks. He was catching Almeida with some long punches, as I thought, and he showed up with a pretty good single leg to get Almeida down. Couldn't get much going from top position. But yeah, I mean, with all the fouling, it's kind of rough, man. I hope they don't cut Potieria out of this, because it's so unfair. The judging was really subpar, not worthy of a UFC pay-per-view, man. That was so fucking weird. And I like Almeida a lot, but he needs to figure out the poking the fighters in the eye thing, because I think he deserved at least 1 point deduction here. Probably 2, and Potieria didn't even get time to recover, so that tips the scale even more on Almeida's favor. Again, I think if they run it again without falls, I think Almeida is the most likely to come out as the winner again, but I hate to see a fight play out like this, right? Just because of a referee incompetence. And you should have side referees, right? when the referee is making the mistake of saying there was no eye poke, there should be a guy watching the tape on the outside and saying, actually, there was an eye poke, you idiot. So yeah, that was bad, man. Ryan Spann fought Ovin Sampru. Ovin's looked very old. Spann looked okay. Not great either. But that, high elbow guillotine that Ryan Spann does is pretty cool. Gotta give him that, right? It was pretty cool. No bone flu for Sampru here, sadly. Tisha Pennington fought Carla Esparza in her retirement fight. This was super close, I felt. I felt like Esparza had arguments for winning round 1 and 3. I think I'm okay with Tisha winning. I think I scored first 2 rounds for Tisha. Carla Esparza landed very hard ground and pound at the end of round 3, so I feel like that could have gone either way. But yeah, I mean, it wasn't a great fight. I felt like Tisha tried to put on a good performance, but every time that she got too aggressive, Carla Esparza showed off her still very good chain wrestling. I feel like Esparza never did have very good entries, but she would take anything that you would give to her. She has very good chain wrestling. She would go from double to single leg back to a knee tap. She turns the corner very well. She can run the tie very well. She can sweep from the single leg position. So she's very good at that. And that was she made a career out of that. And the UFC had a package for Carla Esparza. Obviously, some shots had a problem with that. Oh, well, why are they giving a send-off to Carla Esparza? Because she was a UFC champion. And she was a pioneer of women's MMA. Why does it bother you that they are showing respect to a fighter that it's important in MMA history? Just because you think she's boring or you don't like her? Who cares, man? Let her have her moment. She's part of history. I feel like it was actually very good that the UFC had a package for Carla Esparza. So yeah, I like when the UFC is treating her fighters with some dignity, even though they never paid them right. But at least they can do this, right? The opener of the night was Kurt McGee against Tim Means. Kurt McGee looked very good here. I mean, obviously this is a fight between very old fighters, and Tim Means looked very old. But Joe Rogan was talking about how Kurt McGee had neck surgery and he felt a lot better. And a lot of times fighters say that, oh, I feel like I'm renewed. This is a new me. Kurt McGee really looked like he's 5 years younger out of nowhere. He was way faster. He was punching harder. His transitions into the wrestling looked more aggressive. Kurt McGee looked very good. Not that he's going to turn into a contender or anything, but I'm happy to see a guy that was dealing with injuries, that was having an effect on his game, feeling better, right? And I say this as a very big Tim Means fan. Tim Means very cool, but he looked old and slow here next to Kurt McGee. Good for Kurt, man. His first finish in I don't know how many years, but probably 7 or 8 years, if I had to guess. Adin says, by the way, do you think the UFC should open a 115 division? I think you mean a 105 division? Yes, I would love the UFC to open an atomweight division, a 105. There are fighters that could have benefited a lot from a 105. Tisha Pennington, Carla Esparza. We have Loma Lukbumi, who is clearly too small for the division right now, right? Maybe Tabata Rishi could drop down to 105. There are some small fighters, right? Michelle Watterson was an atomweight before fighting in the UFC. So yeah, I would support an atomweight. There's talent out there. And you can do a road to UFC in Asia. You can do the Ultimate Fighter. So I would support an atomweight division for sure. It would be a lot better than 135, as Melo is saying. Close 135, open 105. Yeah, that would be good. It would be good. So yeah, that was the pay-per-view. I didn't have a lot of expectations, but it wasn't great, man. It was again Alex Pereira saving the night for the UFC as they do, and then we have some shitty judging that ruined it. Some of the cool moments, like Pennington should have retained the title, especially because she pulled off the comeback at the end of the fight, and obviously the Bautista versus Aldo left a bitter taste on everyone's mouth. So it was whatever. I'll run some through fight announcements. I'll recap the next UFC fight night, and I'll get out of here. So let's get into some announcements. Mauricio Hufi was supposed to fight in this pay-per-view. They didn't get him an opponent, but he will now fight Charlie Campbell. Charlie Campbell, who lost to Chris Duncan in that comeback knockout in Contender Series, went back to the regionals. He's now in the UFC and has looked pretty good in his comeback performance. I mean, since his debut and his second performance. Charlie Campbell is solid, man. Obviously, everyone is expecting Mauricio Hufi to put on a show here. He's very athletic. He's exciting. But I feel like this is a good fight, man. They are not giving him like a free fight at all to Hufi. This should be an exciting, like, striking bout. So I support this matchmaking. Chris Curtis is fighting Roman Kopylov. Exciting Southpaw versus Southpaw striker bout here. Interesting to see what's going to happen because Kopylov has had trouble when he gets pushed back. We know that Chris Curtis, as much as I like him, is not very good at pressuring, especially with his feet. He likes to get into exchanges. But if they get into exchanges, like Kopylov is very dangerous because he's like a trick fighter. He likes to deceive you with like a pre-made combination to sneak like a big left hand, a big left kick. But Chris Curtis is like the more nuanced fighter inside the pocket that it's probably will be able to outbox him if they get into like prolonged exchanges. But on the outside, Kopylov is very quick and dangerous with the left kicks, right? And this is a close stance, so interesting to see how Chris Curtis will have to deal with Kopylov, who is very comfortable at throwing leg kicks in close stance matchups. Big fan of this fight. Jailton Almeida will fight Sergey Spivak, so I support this. They are making Jailton fight the wrestlers of the division, and it's interesting to see, right? I feel like this one is interesting because Spivak is actually is obviously pretty big. He's strong, but he got taken down by what's his name, man? What's the name of the super janky heavyweight that has been on the Tibura? So don't forget that Spivak got taken down by Tibura and he came back with the armbar off his back. So yeah, who knows? Who knows what's going on here? But I like the Jailton versus wrestlers. It's funny. Cub Swanson is fighting Billy Q. Billy Q is looking a bit off as of late. Still a very dangerous proposition for all Cub Swanson, but Swanson looked pretty decent against Andre Fili, so who knows? The cardio of Cub Swanson has held up. He's competitive everywhere. Quarantillo seems like he's not able to take on the punishment that he used to before, and Cub Swanson can still throw heat, so I'm not opposed to this. Like a few years ago, I would be like very scared about Billy Q against an old fighter, but I feel like Billy Q is getting up in age. He's not looking as dangerous anymore, so I'm fine with this fight. We have a fight for Rinja Nakamura, and he will be fighting Muin Gafurov, who is a very good scrambler, and he's like a wild man, so I'm still expecting Nakamura to clear here, but this is a very exciting fight. I mean, it's obviously because Nakamura is one of the best prospects in the sport right now. He's a high-level former Olympic wrestler, so watch out for that. What else we have? Ovan Elliott will fight Basil Hafez. Interesting fight between wrestlers too here. Ovan Elliott clearly more of a like a well-rounded guy. Hafez more of like a beast that likes to take people down. But Hafez is like very tough, has good cardio. I feel like Ovan Elliott has the advantage here, being the more well-rounded fighter, the more comfortable striker, and very hard to take down. But Hafez is a host, man, so who knows if he can get something done here. Cody Stateman will fight Damon Blackshear. I feel like Yeah, kind of bad matchup for Stayman, who is getting like kind of old. Has trouble wrestling the very long guys of the division, and Blackshear is huge. But we'll see because like yeah, Blackshear can be Blackshear is dangerous like everywhere. But Cody Stamen is probably the better transition fighter of the two. But you know, Stamen can fail to put like stamp on fights on the feet, or can fail to establish control. So that's probably going to be a good fight. Like Stamen is rarely in bad fights. Jim Miller will fight Damon Jackson at lightweight, I guess, at UFC 309. I think Jim Miller is going to beat his ass, to be honest. And I support that. I like seeing Jim Miller win. But this is a cool fight. This is a cool fight because Jackson is not afraid to bring it on the feet. He's a very good grappler. So whatever this fight goes, it's going to be like competitive, I feel. But I feel like Jim Miller is probably going to have the advantage in this one, especially as the bigger guy. Thiago Moises will fight Trey Ogden. It's very like generic versus generic fighter, but it's alright. Like these fighters, I mean, these guys are very good. These are not bad fighters. It's just that they fail to have like one thing that makes them very special, right? There's a rematch between Nicolas Dalby and Eliseo Zaleski dos Santos. They have their first fight in 2015. I mean, it was their debut, so that's very interesting, right? And they both come of getting kind of robbed against Rinat Fakhretdinov. So this is the fight. This is the fight for the custody of Rinat, right? But it's going to be a very cool fight because both guys can push a pace. Both guys are very scrappy. So yeah, I like this fight. Evloev versus Sterling has been rebooked for UFC 310. So that's interesting. Song Kenan will fight Muslim Salikov. This is like an old man fight at this point, right? Wang Kong is making her comeback against Gabriela Fernandez. I'm not familiar with Fernandez, but everyone has an eye on Wang Kong. Not only because she has like a win over Valentina in kickboxing, but also because she had like a brutal one-punch knockout on her debut. Yan Xiaonan is fighting Tabata Ricci. This could be like an important fight at strawweight. So we'll see if like Xiaonan can keep it on the feet this time. Because her wrestling looked rough against Wei Li in their title fight, but she can crack, man. And Ricci, she is very tough, but she has been open on the feet. So interesting, like classic striker versus wrestler fight here. Volkan Oezdemir is fighting Carlos Ulberg. Very cool fight. Will be interesting to see if Oezdemir tries to mix it up with some takedown attempts. Not that he cannot strike with Ulberg, but Ulberg is like the quicker, sharper guy. But Oezdemir is like very crafty on the feet, so this is a very good fight. Manel Cap is fighting Bruno Silva, the small Bruno Silva, the flyweight, who comes out of like murdering Cody Durden. Cool fight, very cool fight, especially because like Bruno Silva brings it with an insane pace, and Cap like he has cardio, but he doesn't like the chaotic fight. He likes to fight a bit slower. Clay Guida is fighting Chase Hooper, and I feel like they are trying to replicate the Puelles versus Clay Guida fight here. But it would be interesting to see how Hooper deals with a wrestler, and if Hooper tries to like beat him on the feet before getting it to the ground. I don't know. Guida has not been looking that bad as old as he is. David Grant is fighting Ramon Taveras. This one is great. I like this a lot because David Grant is a violent dude, brings it every time. Taveras is a long southpaw who is like very crafty, boxes to the body a lot. This one should be very, very exciting. And the last one that I did not mention because I did not do an early prelims last week. We finally are going to get Peter Yan against Davison Figueiredo. Obviously, this is not as exciting as when both guys were like champions and pound for pound talent, but this is still like they're a little bit in a renaissance, both of these guys. So I'm very, very excited about this fight. And it's also a main event, so if this goes long, this might get crazy. I'm still wildly favoring Pierre Yan to win here, but this is a fantastic fight. I would not miss it. Let's recap next week event. I mean, not next week, this Saturday event, right? Right. I read another comment. What are your thoughts on Conor McGregor's suggestion on Twitter that there should be a shot lock when in the clinch to encourage action to avoid holding like in the Bautista fight? I don't know. A clock. I don't like the idea of a clock, to be honest. I just feel like referees should encourage more like a fighting, and I feel like, I don't know. I don't really have a problem with fighters pushing against the fence. I feel like that's part of MMA. If you want to use like driving against the fence to get a rest, to tire your opponent out, that's fair. I don't even think that referees should be quicker to separate fighters, because it's on the fighters to separate themselves. I just want judges to not score those stalling positions. Any thoughts on Beterbiev versus Bivol? I'm excited, but I don't really have like a good read. I've seen both boxers before, but I don't know, man. I'm just so busy with MMA that when it comes to boxing, I just come to enjoy for the most time. I did some work on Usyk, but for the most time, I just go into boxing fights blind. It's a very cool fight, man. It's one of the best boxing fights of the year. But I don't really have a read, to be honest. But I'll be watching. It's by far better than the UFC, right? So yeah, this Saturday we have Brandon Royval against Tatsuro Taira. And I don't know, I'm expecting Taira to just get top position here. Like Royval is a very resourceful scrambler, right? But we saw him control against Pantoja. I don't feel like Royval has a huge advantage on the feet either, because like Royval doesn't look as dynamic anymore. It doesn't look like he hurts people anymore. Something that we saw in the Pantoja fight, something that we saw in the Brandon Moreno fight. So I'm not sure, man. I'm sure. I feel like Taira should win here. That's what I think. But yeah, I mean, obviously, and Taira should probably get a title fight off this. I'm guessing, man, right? Royval is coming off a big win of a main event, even though that fight was one of the worst that I've seen. That Royval versus Moreno rematch was so bad. But yeah, I mean, who else is there? If the only case that I seen someone like passing Taira for a title shot would be if Albasi got a win over Moreno, right? Because he already has a win over Kai Kara France. And that's looking even better now because Kara France beat Erceg. But obviously, like, a lot of people did not agree with the decision of Albasi versus Kai Kara France. But you know how it is. You get the decision, time goes on, and everyone forgets about it. So if Albasi is able to win against Moreno, that would be something. If Moreno wins and they give a title fight to Moreno, it would be like, fuck off, man. Moreno should not fight Pantoja ever again. He had enough chances to win at every stage of his career, and he could not get it done. Get on the line, wait for another guy to become champion, and then Moreno can get back into the title hunt, right? Co-main event is Brad Tavares versus Yoon Young Park. I don't have any trouble with this fight. I think it's very solid, but this is not co-main event material, to be honest. And you know me, like, I like Tavares, I like the Iron Turtle, but is this really a co-main event in 2024? Especially because main event is not that strong. I mean, I like Taira and Royval, but I'm not like super hyped about this one. This is a solid middleweight fight. To be honest, I feel like I'm hoping, I guess, that Yoon Young Park gets it done, but I feel like Tavares is like a rough matchup because he's so good with the takedown defense. But Yoon Young Park can't get it done with the jab because he gets on people's faces. Grant Dawson is fighting Rafa Garcia. kind of easy fight for Dawson because he's fighting like a fellow wrestler that it's not as big as him. I feel like Dawson is going to dominate from top position here. Cory McKenna is stepping on short notice to fight Julia Polastri. Polastri was supposed to fight Poliana Viana. I don't remember Polastri match. I think Cory McKenna is kind of cool. D-Rod, Daniel Rodriguez is fighting Alex Morono. This is like complete jank weight fight. This is like the jank. This is so janky. What else am I supposed to say? It's going to be okay, I guess. Both guys are like getting kind of old. They are like not as dangerous anymore. But they are still a good watch most of the time. George Frem is fighting Abdul Razak Al Hassan. George Frem better try to get a takedown early. And if he gets Razak Al Hassan tired, he's going to have a field day with him on the ground. But it's going to be dangerous for him early on, right? Shidi and Jukwani is fighting Jared Gooden. That should be a banger. Like, not very important for the welterweight division, but should bang at the very least. CJ Vergara is fighting Ramazan Temirov. Man, they just feed these kind of like Eastern prospects to CJ Vergara, right? Should be a fun one. And I'm guessing the UFC wants like Temirov to win here. It should be a very good fight. Jonathan Pierce, JSP, is fighting Pat Sabatini. This one should be very interesting if they go to the ground because they are like very good grapplers. On the feet, I feel like Sabatini is maybe like more composed, by Pierce is like more aggressive, longer guy. Fights at a more like aggressive pace. So it should be interesting. Nico Price is fighting Temba Gorimbo. This is jank weight again, man. Like Nico Price, and if Gorimbo wins here, like he could be the bearer of the jank weight division. Moving on from here, man. Weird that this is lower down the card because Price just beat Morono, right? Chris Barnett was supposed to fight Waldo Cortez Acosta. Thankfully, that's not happening because Cortez Acosta was going to win and it was going to suck. And now Chris Barnett is fighting Junior Tafa, and they're probably going to have like a super stupid and silly heavyweight kickboxing bout, and I'm fine with that. Dan Argueta is fighting Cody Haddon. Is Cody Haddon like a Contender Series guy? I don't remember the Contender Series kids anymore, man. Yeah, he is. I don't remember if he's good or not, man, but hopefully this is a good fight. Dan Argueta is like fun to watch. He's not great, but he's fun to watch. Talking about Contender Series guys, Clayton Carpenter is fighting Lucas Hosha. I remember Carpenter who won his fight against Chaires, and I don't think he won that one, but he looked pretty good, man. He looked pretty cool. And then he had a quick submission against Juan Camilo Ronderos in his UFC debut. So I like Carpenter. And that's the event. This one is rough. Like, I'm not going to pretend, this slow key has some bangers. Like, no, this one is bad, man. This event is bad. I'm not going to defend this one, man. Main event is good, but they deserve it like a better card. If you want to get people to watch a flyweight main event, you better put on a very good co-main event, an action fight on the co-main event. And you're not doing that. You're putting like old middleweights in the co-main event. What are we doing here? What are we doing? It's like they're still fucking the flyweights up. Adin says flyweight is so sad, like the black sheep of MMA division. Cut guys like Mokayev, refuse to sign back guys like Horiguchi, Formiga, Ortiz. Yeah. I mean, I feel like the division is still decent. Could be a lot better, right? But it's flyweight is weird because it's kind of shallow right now. So you have like a lower tier and a high tier that are like very disconnected. Like, you don't imagine like Ignacio Altamirano fighting someone like Amir Albasi right now. But yeah, I mean, the UFC, Melo saying, UFC, why is flyweight so unpopular? Yeah, because every time that they put on a flyweight main event, they put on a shit card. It's because Dana hates the flyweights. And the people ended up like, we want the flyweights. and then they're trying to sabotage the flyweights again. It's so weird. Like, why does Dana hate the flyweights? It's a good division, and even the low tier of flyweight right now, they put on good fights, like, consistently. It's not as good as bantamweight or as featherweight, but it's still better division than current day, like welterweight or middleweight, right? It's so weird. I'm glad that Tyram Royval are getting the spotlight, but they're not like actually getting the spotlight because they're putting them on like a pretty shitty card, right? Yeah, there's so many good flyweights on the regional scene and on other organizations too. Especially if like one stops putting on MMA fights that everyone agrees should be the right move, the UFC could populate the flyweight division with good fighters. But they don't do it. So yeah, I'm guessing we're leaving it at that. That's the podcast. Thank you so much for everyone that tuned in, especially because this was so impromptu. I didn't usually like broadcast the yearly prelims during mornings because I thought like no one would watch. And I'm guessing this could be a thing from now on. I don't know, we'll see. But again, thank you everyone for showing up. Remember guys that if you want to support the Fight Site as an ongoing project, you can head over to Patreon. You can get access to a lot of exclusive content and to our Discord server that is like full of cool people to talk about fights and other stuff. You can watch my breakdown of Jose Aldo versus Southpaws. There's a 3-parter. We're on part 2. Part 1 you can watch for free. If you join as a free member, you can watch Jose Aldo versus Kenny Florian, all the tactics that he used against the Southpaw there. And if you want to watch part 2 against Pierre Yan, you need to pay a little bit of money. But it's a pretty cool video, and you get a lot of extra content if you subscribe as a paid member. I'll try to put on some more free stuff for everyone on the Patreon on top of content for the paid members. We're working on that. I know the Patreon didn't get a lot of content for some time, but I'm working on getting it back up. So I appreciate the support. Thank you for everyone that tuned in on the chat. The recorded version will be up hopefully later today. So yeah, thank you guys. I'll catch you on the next one. Bye.